Kids that love being outside, but I also love being in the garage playing guitar. But I also love studying random tidbits of law to understand how do I protect my things? Why is this important? Um, so I want to go into this. So the three principles that I kind of want to, or I guess the overarching principles of what we're going to be looking at today are discipline, consistency, and self awareness. Those are three of the many moral guidelines or principles that I live by. But the discipline piece in particular, I use to kind of help understand the guitar. So the way I learned how to play the guitar was to take them apart and I tried to put them back together because I wanted to understand why it works the way it does rather than memorizing a bunch of scales from a guy on YouTube, which was very helpful. But I still wanted to understand, okay, well, why is this scale like that? Why is the guitar built like this? Why does it make that sound? What does this tone sound like? Well, what is the difference in that versus this? So diving into that world kind of helped me to um, unpack the guitar, but also unpack my appreciation and connection with music itself. I see music as something that's a universal tool, a universal language that connects all of us, no matter where we come from, our skin color, our background, how we identify. Music is that thing that unites all of us. Turn on some Michael Jackson, everybody in the same room is going to be dancing or singing along. You turn on Teen Spirit, everybody's going to be headbanging because we all know the song. So just kind of music to me is that thing that unites all of us. But with that being said, like I said, grow up didn't really have a whole lot of well, let me rephrase that. Because I was one of those kids that was always kind of doing a little bit in different areas, I never really fit in anywhere. So, how that translated to getting older, I would go to Spelman College. I studied environmental science. And while I was there, I had been working in the nonprofit industry, working at Zoo Atlanta. I worked at the National Zoo, Captain Planet Foundation, Ted Turner, and I was learning a lot of the business behind nonprofit and kind of using that as the foundation of understanding business in general. But one thing that I struggled with was when I went to the nonprofit spaces, they were like, well, you're clearly a musician. You're a creative person. Why are you over here? Go do something in the entertainment industry. But then when I went over there, they're like, well, your resume is nothing but science and law and nonprofit. Why are you over here? Go do something over there. You don't qualify. I never fit in. So instead of trying to fit in, I decided to make my own space and then invite others like minded, like Victoria, for example, that would help me make the Tulip space even bigger. So when I was in college, I decided to, or actually right before college, I decided to start an international black female rock collective called the Tulips Band. And so the way that it's sectored out is into three branches of business that I've spent very, very long time over the last maybe 13 years or so building. And so the first one is the actual touring piece itself. Representation is extremely important to me, and this is one of my favorite quotes: having power is not as important as what you do with it. I think we live in a world where people get, especially now, get quick access to power, don't really know what to do with it because they've never stopped to understand what is power, why is having power important, how do you use it for good instead of just being out here just doing any and everything. Um, so the Tulips Band is separated into these three branches of business. The Tulips Band piece is the touring collective, which I'll show some of the girls in the band in a second. The second branch of business is Tulips Academy, which is where my education and nonprofit piece comes in. This is a strategy academy that I started to teach kids the business behind the industry and the why behind the industry and not just how to play the guitar. Part of what that looked like is working with a lot of girls rock camps over the years. Girls Rock Asheville is like one of, and I'm still on the board of that one, but working with literally every girls rock in the United States, Sweden. We've worked with the camps in Canada and London. But our objective was they already had a lot of the musical components, teaching kids how to play drums and guitar and bass and forming bands. But we would come in and teach them, all right, what happens when you and the band have a song that you all created? And it's a really good song, but then you start arguing over who made it, who did this part, what percentage. So we go in and teach kids, one, how do you strategize together? Because the whole band has to be on one accord. If not, if you're going this way, they're going that way, somebody else is going this way, you're not going to make it very far. So that's part of what we do with Tulips Academy, and also the legal piece is teaching kids about intellectual property and contracting. And then the third leg is where my lawyer piece comes in, Tulips Consulting Group. And with that, it's a very specific niche space. I like to work at the preventative area of law. I'm one of those people that believes, why wait until your song has got, or why wait until your music or your art has been stolen to call me when we can just do it in the beginning? Let's copyright up front. Let's be strategic up front. If you're going to let someone, license your song, let's have the paperwork, let's do it right the first time instead of waiting until somebody steals your things and now you're in court trying to figure out who did what and how much am I going to get from it. And even with that, there's no guarantee that you're always going to get an outcome that works best for you. So I like to work with people at the beginning to make sure that they're able to be set right. These are some of our partners. I'm not going to go through all that. So I'm going to go to some of the musicians in the collective. Here we go. So these are some of the girls in the band, and some of the girls that are in the band would later end up being in some magazines, which I'm going to touch on this in a little bit. Actually, I'll get on that in a second. But these are some of the musicians that are in the collective. I'm going to talk about this picture in particular in a second, but this person right here, their name is Jay. They're also right here. They live in California. They are a drummer, a teacher as well. And then Jeanette right here plays bass. She's from Chicago. She also teaches. Indigo teaches classical guitar. She also does a lot of screenwriting. So all of the band people in the Tulips band have different backgrounds. We're not just linear. We're not a monolith. So that's one of the things that makes the Tulips band special. It's not just the different faces and the different shades of everyone's skin and the different instruments, but it's also the depth to each person as an individual and what they bring to the table. And the way that all comes together is when we get on stage, one day you might have a show with, these three group of people, or these three people, Janelle and April K. We did a show in New York actually for a movie that I filmed, which I'll get to in a second. But then the next day you might get a show with me and Vanessa right here and Jay. And this was a movie that we did for Netflix, The Harder They Fall. But through each of those different elements, you're able to get, Jay's perspective. How does what Jay does in the classroom, how do they bring that to life on stage through playing drums? And I think that music, because it's such it can be an emotional thing if you're intentional with how you make it. I think that emotion is received on the other end through the listener. So I think creating music is important, but also being able to receive it is equally as important as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about perspective before I get into this. Okay, so I first want to play this video. And this video, actually, speaking of meeting people, this performance in particular is how I met Victoria. Victoria is an engineer. I'm going to let her share a little bit about herself and what she does in the collective as well. But Victoria is an engineer and vocalist, and we got a call to do this performance and interview for Georgia Public Broadcasting Peach Jam podcast. And Victoria is the engineer that mixed our set and is Emmy nominated. We just found out. I have to put you on blast. Yeah, we're excited for her. Yeah. So I'm going to play this clip really quick. So just out of thank you. Just out of curiosity, what was you all's interpretation or feeling from the meaning of the song, or perhaps the way that we were playing, the texture of the guitars? What's kind of like the emotion or feeling that comes to mind?
I think it's got like persistence going on.
Yeah, persistence.
Like that drum group is so cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and just the beat layer was really good, and yeah, it was just like really cool. And it had like a kind of like a attitude with it, you know. The song is just like got that really cool, and you know the bass line, like I said, that beat was really awesome. So, and grooving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got like strength and perseverance, and like felt like you were all very comfortable owning the stage and the space, so it gave me a sense of like comfort and pride and like also connectivity.
Yeah.
Because you all were interacting together like in very cool ways.
Yeah. So one of the things that I guess the principle that I'm feeling here is perspective. The art of perspective is something that I'm always talking to my elementary school kids about, because when you're able to take perspective, whether it's looking at someone else's perspective, disagreeing with it or agreeing with it, and having your own perspective, or perhaps looking at someone else's perspective, being able to switch through different perspectives in life, to me, is a gift. Because you're able to show up in the world different when you're able to understand things different by looking at someone else's perspective, which is not something that I believe we're just automatically given in life. I feel like you have to work to understand perspective and be able to exercise the art of it to get the most out of it. One of the examples that I use with middle school kids, I'll hold up a bottle and say, you know, who thinks that this is halfway full? Some of them will raise their hands. Say, who thinks it's halfway empty? Some other students will raise their hand. Has the amount of water or liquid changed? No. Have I poured anything out? No. Have I added any? No. So 2 different responses about the same thing. When you're able to take perspective and look and use that throughout life, to me, you're able to show up in the world a little bit different. I want to play this clip and talk about an example, more tangible example of what perspective looks like for me, and how the Tulips Band has been able to take that and turn it into something more monumental and help others.
James believes
after this
keeping a
commercial
close
break.
watch on his spending helps him resist temptation. By tracking spending in the Wells Fargo mobile app.
He's like really contemplating. Trying to get those shoes.
He ain't really sure that.
Right. Confidently walks away.
$10 for a large.
Oh.
$10 for any 3 toppings. $10 for your choice of hot cakes.
So tell me about the intention you have of lifting women of color with this project.
You know, I think we probably all can identify with just growing up and not always having representation, meaning someone that looks like us in the magazines that we go to the store to buy, on billboards, even on the internet. They're just, growing up, I didn't have a lot of those avenues. We didn't have a lot of those avenues. So I think it kind of comes full circle in so many different ways, because now each of us are kind of doing things in a way that's giving back to our community, also uplifting people through inspiring and just existing, but then also helping people change their perspective and looking at life differently. There's 2 sides to every coin. My dad always says your cup is half empty or it's half full. It just depends on how you choose to look at it. And our experiences, the people that we're around, you know, cultivate the way that we look at life. So I think through the Tulips Band, our whole objective is helping people to shift their perspective. Can be good or bad. It just depends again on, you know, what's going on. But ultimately, if you're able to use your passion to help shift your perspective, then you're able to show up in the world different. So it's a matter of starting up here, ending here. Every time I hit the microphone, always takes me out every time. It's like a person. Nobody else notices it except for like engineers or me. Like we know. So perspective, just going back to perspective being something that is integral. So for me, I didn't have a music camp to go to when I was young. I didn't have, you know, magazines where I could just open up and see, you know, women of color and aspire. Oh, well, you know, I can do that one day because I see so-and-so doing it. I didn't know about Sister Rosetta Tharpe. I didn't know about Tina Bell. I didn't know about a lot of black musicians and artists, specifically black women, until I got older, until I went to college. Perspective. So these 3 magazines, some of my favorite magazines, Guitar World magazine, I used to go and buy these all the time. And I would just flip through and just say, you know, oh, I love that guitar. I love this. And one day I'm going to be in the magazine. And I remember the first time I finally got a little section called the Defenders of Faith. I think I was 22. This is not the first one. But I got 2 different little small sections in the magazine when I was young. But I still kept feeling like, this is great, but I want more. I would love to see women of color on the magazine. Like when I go to the shelf and it's just there. I would love to be able to see that one day. What's funny is I always tell the kids, you know, I could have let that negative impact be something that negatively impacted me for the rest of my life, or I could do something about it. So the tulips fan is one of the things that I said, you know, I'm going to step out and do something about it, created the tulips. But the other piece was the tangible piece of representation and diversity. What's funny is years later, Guitar World magazine would come back and ask to do a full interview on me, which was really cool. And then a couple of months later, the editor-in-chief emailed me and said, hey, would you like to be a writer for Guitar World magazine? I was like, hell yeah. So I was able to use that passion, use that perspective, and became a writer for Guitar World magazine. A lot of the stuff that I focus on with the magazine is about sustainability. Also, I've talked about some Black history, Chuck Berry, and I did some coverage on Melina Moye, one of my friends in the industry, but the last 3 pieces that I did were strictly about building sustainable, because we are at a time where we got to do better. We should have been doing better, but we're about to run out of water, like everything. So figuring out how can I be a part of that story? How can I be a part of the change? Because I believe that everyone has a role to play. It's not just the manufacturing companies, it's the consumers, because the manufacturing companies make what consumers buy. One of the when I did a deep dive into the world of manufacturing, I learned a lot of good and bad information about the way that wood is sourced to create and build instruments, not just guitars, but I focused on guitars, but also talked to some drum manufacturing companies and violins as well. But the guitar manufacturing industry in particular has left quite a large hole in communities, in some of the areas that they have tree farms. And then one of the things that I learned from one of the guys that does the main sourcing for most of the companies is that wood is so precious and so precious and so expensive. But one little piece of wood could have the smallest imperfection and they will leave it or throw it away or not use it. The amount of wood that they were wasting, they being just every major manufacturing company, Ibanez, Yamaha, PRS, all of them. The amount of wood that they were wasting for over the smallest imperfections was tons and tons of wood annually. Absolutely crazy, just because of the smallest imperfections. I remember speaking to one company, do I want to say their name? I do. Gibson. I spoke with Gibson. And I remember speaking to them about, are you all aware of the impact, that the message that you all are sending when you're harvesting wood and wasting half of it and basically saying, F it. I don't care. Y'all are buying it. We're going to keep making it. I understand we have a bottom line, but is there a way that we could be sustainable in our practice and in the way that we build? And I was basically told, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've been doing what we've been doing for years, and we don't really want to change it. Perspective. Had the same conversation with Martin Guitars. Their response was, oh, no, this is great. We've been listen, we are sustainable. We don't play. We actually are in the process of changing a lot of stuff in the operations, in the way that we source, in the way that we sell, in the way that we message and share the message with consumers. 2 different conversations about the same, or 2 different responses about the same topic. So this deep dive of digging into building sustainable has been a huge interest of mine. So not just the writing about it, but the reason for me why I said I really want to use my given platform through Guitar World to talk about the importance of this is because most consumers don't know that it takes a lot to build the guitar that you just bought for $500 or $2,000 or $7,000. It takes a lot to get there. And so what I realized is that a lot of people just simply don't know. And when you don't know better, then you don't do better. When you do know better, then you do better. So using that platform to talk to people about the importance of raising awareness, and then also just drawing attention to some of the companies that are indeed doing that. I even spent some time with EMG. Allison Turner is a good friend of mine. She's the VP over at EMG, and I've been endorsed with them for quite some years. But even talking with them about, what is the role that you all play? Now, they don't use wood to the same degree as Yamaha or Gibson, but they do use some wood and some unsustainable practices in the way that they create their pickups. And so even speaking with them, they're like, we're absolutely looking at ways that we can reuse materials. I mean, we can simply just melt it down and repurpose it into something else, or reuse it in a different, pickup, or perhaps make this a pickup that is on sale or a special, whatever. There are ways to figure it out. But even speaking with EMG, there are ways that we can all play a role in the sustainability of instrument manufacturing. But how that looks on the consumer levels is educating yourself. Educating yourself, educating yourself, educating yourself. Another one of my good friends, Lindsay Love, over at Taylor Guitars, also is a key player at Taylor about the education. They do a lot of programs in schools with kids, teaching them about how they're using sustainable practices to recreate the process by which they build guitars. So just stuff like that is really important. And so that brings me to the next thing, going back to passion and perspective. So when I was really young, I had a notebook that I used to use to draw designs that I wanted to have one day. One day I really want to build guitars. I don't know what it would look like, but that would be kind of cool. I lost the notebook for a very long time, until about maybe 7 years ago. I found it cleaning up. And so I, at that time, had been introduced to a company called Thermalwood Canada. Thermalwood is a company in Canada that creates sustainable wood and other ways to help instrument and furniture manufacturing companies build more sustainably. They have something called obsidian, and obsidian is a type of sustainable wood that they've used. And so they were kind enough to send me some, and we partnered together, and my dream came true. So I started my own guitar company last year called Acetone Guitars. And this guitar is fully recyclable with obsidian. This is an old Jackson body. I didn't like the tone of the Jackson body with the whole setup that it had, so I took it apart, like I remembered from when I first started, and we built the neck out of obsidian, and then we put everything back together. And then these are the custom pickups that EMG made for me with my signature on these. They made these some time ago, but just using that as an example, like I take today when we did the career fair, I took this and we talked to the kids about, one, this is something that was on a sheet of paper. This was an idea that was on a sheet of paper, and years later it became something that was tangible. I didn't know this was going to be tangible, but going back to the principles of life, discipline. If I had given up on something so simple, if I had given up those days of practice, if I had given up those days of finding myself, writing out my passions, going to school, doing things that seemingly had nothing to do with music, I wouldn't have gotten to this point where I'm able to come to schools and say, you can do this. It is possible. And just being able to get in front of a room of students of all shades is so important, because again, going back to diversity. So that's, this is a really big accomplishment for me, in addition to these magazines. But I wanted to show some of the behind the scenes of that a little bit. So this was the beginning process. This was step 2. So it was in a notebook. And after I found that notebook, like I said, I started making miniature models so I could figure out, all right, so, the way that the guitar plays is important. The process by which it's made is important to me, but the look is also important to me as well. I want each of these guitars to be unique, and I want them to be specific to the person that's buying it, or to, the idea or the message that I want to send through the guitar. So that guitar started off like this. Now, some of the hardware pieces we're still working on. I got to change out some of my hardware to gold, but it went from a sheet of paper to a miniature version to a body, to obsidian, to a neck, to all of these things, and then eventually this, and then eventually that guitar right there. So that's another big accomplishment that I like to share, just through the lens of inspiration and sharing with students and people. It's never too late, and it is possible. Another thing I think is that we live in a world where people are always going to discourage you because of the color of your skin or because of your age, and say, well, you can't do that. Do something that, a young black girl in the South, these are the type of jobs that would be more, better for you. And that's a lot of what I had teachers that were very mean and blunt in saying that to myself and to kids in elementary school. Pick something that's safe, or you can't do all those passions. Just pick one. And I tried it, and it just never sat right with me. So I'm proud looking back on these moments and saying, if I, or if you had said when you were 9 or 10 years old, I'm not gonna try, or I'm not gonna pursue something just because of whatever blockage or challenge, then none of us would be sitting here today. None of us would be doing the things that we're passionate about. But I think when we're able to, again, the people that we're around, the things that we see influence the person that we become down the road. So being able to take who we are today, all of us have a perspective that has to be shared. And I say has to because I think we're in a very critical time in history right now where we're not having enough community. And community is going to be the only way that we're able to move forward together. And sometimes community is hard conversations like, what are you all doing to build your instruments more sustainably? Do we want to talk about that in Guitar World magazine? And sometimes it's, you know what, I'm just going to work with a company that's already like-minded, and we're going to do what we can do on our end and hopefully positively impact and influence people down the road. I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions before I keep talking your faces off. Yeah.
I'm from Asheville, and there's a company there called Illuminati Guitars. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but I was wondering your thoughts about like aluminum body guitars and if you've ever played them.
I haven't, but I love Asheville, and I'm going in May again, so I need to check that out.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I had a question about the obsidian.
Mhm.
Do you know what that is exactly?
It is actually, you know what? I started to pull this up, and I said, should I? I'm gonna show. Here we go. Ugh. Hold on one second.
Nope, I'm gonna do it. That makes me do that.
No, I already did this.
Well, let me do that. That's so crazy. Okay. Oh, because it's going to your Google Drive, right?
Yeah, I'm fixing those.
Oh, so you might have to log in
Okay.
if you wanted to.
Anybody?
Use another account. Okay, go for
There
it.
we go. It should be good now. Let me refresh that.
If you want, you can also video mute it or.
The captions become like metal band logos.
Oh,
There we
it
go.
is? Okay, cool.
Cool.
Okay, so this was actually the information sheet that they shared with me that they would that they were like, can you share this with people when you talk about it? So I'm not going to read through all the bullet points, but it's not true ebony; it's a wood alternative. So the one thing that I love about the obsidian is that typically with guitars it breathes. So being able to retune a guitar after it's been sitting for some days in your room or wherever can be a challenge. So the good thing with the obsidian is that think of like a locking nut, but with the wood on the fretboard. So I don't have to keep retuning that guitar just because it sat in the car and then I came inside. It's able to hold the tune a lot better than like some of the ebony that is put on certain guitars. Does that make sense? In my head, okay. So
It doesn't breathe the same way as normal wood.
right. So they thermally modify the wood so that it's literally more sustainable as you're playing it and as it's existing as a guitar or as it's existing as a violin. A lot of the obsidian that they make also has been used to build furniture. Ironically, how they got started was creating obsidian and other wood alternatives for furniture manufacturing companies. So a lot of their partners are furniture manufacturing companies and also people that build houses. Lots of contractors that build houses, they buy wood from them in Canada to build. So them slipping into the music industry and manufacturing industry has been something new within the last couple of years. I think like within the last 5 years, maybe 4 to 5 years. I also know that they've been experimenting with this a lot with Ernie Ball, Music Man. They actually just finished a bass. I don't know when it's going to be announced or released, but I know that they made a bass with Music Man with the obsidian. So this, through me using my guitar, also press, them working with Music Man, we're trying to get the obsidian and the other alternatives that they have into the hands of the actual builders of these manufacturing companies, because some of the rejection I think is we don't know what that is, and that feels like a learning curve. We've been doing this way for so long, why would we change it to learn something else? But again, you have those one or two that are a little bit more open to listening, sent out a couple of samples, they've kind of tested it, but I think the Music Man is the first one that's like fully built, tried and true with the obsidian, and Ernie Ball was like, we like this. So now we're trying to get Yamaha and some of the other companies to pick up the obsidian to build their instruments more sustainably. Like I said, Taylor Guitars and Martin Guitars have already been doing a pretty good job with that. And I know they've also got some of the obsidian, and they've been experimenting with building some new models. So we'll see what the future holds with that. Did they answer your question in a very long-winded way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
I had another question that I guess maybe is similar. I was seeing on one of those slides where you had the different stages of putting, like concepts for the guitar and just testing things out.
Mm-hmm.
In that one on the middle, on the bottom, is that a cello neck?
Where, this one or this one?
With the guitar neck, that one.
Is this the
that
cello?
one?
Oh, that one right there.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Oh.
I actually don't know. My tech, when he was rewiring and fixing some stuff for me, it might be because he be making everything. So yeah.
Is he the one that's working with the Obsidian, or is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I play viola, and so I saw
Yeah.
that if they're doing that kind of thing, that's really interesting.
I know that violins have been a very large topic of conversation between thermal wood and manufacturing companies. I don't know about violas. I feel like that's like a half step away.
Basically
It's the same, right?
Yeah.
So
It's,
but I'm gonna ask
just
them.
because I know like the ebony that they get for the neck.
Yeah.
Is such a big thing, and they don't want to use anything but that. And
Right.
then there's for the bow, they use
Yeah.
Pernambuco wood.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's really, you should not be cutting those trees down.
Yeah.
But,
But that kind of goes back to like some of the conversations that like I was having with some of the guys that source the wood. Like there are certain woods that we should not be cutting down and touching. Also, trees have to mature to a certain point before you start cutting it down, and some of these companies just like don't. And they're just like, we want to make something now, and we can just treat it, and we can do this, and we can kind of. But money is the root of all evil. But in the long run, the impact that has on the consumer is you have a guitar that might not have as long of a lifespan because you all are cutting down wood before it fully matures so that you don't have to do as much in the treatment process to be able to create something that sounds good. So, but that's another reason why I wanted to use my platform through Guitar World to talk to the consumers. Yeah, it's a cool guitar and it sounds cool, but do you understand the process of how it got there and how long you might be able to have it before you get bored of it because it no longer sounds the way you wanted, or it's not holding the tone that you wanted it to. So like the wear and tear over the years, so yeah. Any other questions before
So did you kind of like, I have a custom guitar as well, and so I anytime when I get my guitar adjusted just because of the climate and everything, I'll go up there and get him to do that. And it's kind of cool, but I didn't get to watch him build that guitar, but I've seen his workshop. Did you get to watch him, kind of do like a little
Yeah, I was a part of the
learn?
process,
Like,
yeah. And
Yeah.
and I will say also my tech his name is Tommy Thompson. I love Tommy so much because I met Tommy before I even started playing guitar. And I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I met him when I was playing the oboe when I was in middle school. And he used to sell me my reeds, and I was so fascinated by watching him in the store like change guitar strings. And I just was literally stand there and watch him every time I went in there. And eventually he started teaching me stuff. And then I would go home and try to like match that with what I was teaching myself and kind of like met in the middle. And so Tommy like literally for over 20 years has been my rock. I love Tommy.
Awesome.
But yeah, Tommy's one of those guys that has a similar mindset of I can do it for you, but I would rather teach you how to do it so that you know how to do it for yourself. So that's how I learned to change guitar strings. I would watch him, and then he showed me how to do it, and then I went home and practiced, and then I taught somebody else, and then so just also information sharing, knowledge passing. Those types of things seem so simple, but if it was happening more, we would have a different world right now. Okay, so I want to jump right here. That's not it. Okay, so I briefly wanted to talk about some of like when I think of hardships and some of the areas that I've had to exercise discipline. This is the right one. Let me pull it from here actually. Some of the areas that I've had to exercise discipline. So these are some of the highlights of my career, the Tulips career so far. And one of the ones I kind of want to talk about is a movie called Solo Act, but then there's two others I want to show you briefly. These two pictures right here are Kylo and I in New York. So the way that Solo Act came about is I was in Sweden working with the Girls Rock Camp, and I got an email from somebody saying, hey, I'm a professor at LIU TV Writer Studio. We want to talk to you about writing music for a film that we're putting together. Our students are putting together like their project. And I was like, okay, this feels like it's fake. And so the guy emailed me again like a few days later. We get on the phone, and it's legit. It's legit, and not only that, but all of the teachers are like heavy hitters, like Emmy Award winning and nominated producers that were actually on set. And so I got a chance to go up to New York. I think we did the movie in like 3 different settings. But it was cool because it started off with me just producing the music to me playing the lead role in the film. So I want to show you all a little bit of it. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's like 30 minutes, but I just want to play a clip of it. There we go. There we go. So this is from the premiere, so the audio is a little, but it's still. I'm going to talk about that guy in a minute. His name is Larry. It's hilarious.
Hey, officer. Everyone wants a picture with Joe.
No. Can you tell me how to get to TBA Brooklyn?
T1.
TBA Brooklyn is a bar.
Just take the G train, get off Broadway. You can walk from there.
I'm Lucy. That's all for tonight. That was really good, girl. I'm Roxy. I haven't seen you around. I just got in town, literally.
Malcolm.
Lucy.
Hey.
Hey, we gotta go. We need to rehearse for POV. Oh, that's in Brooklyn. I'm doing that too. Oh. So, where's the rest of your band? Band? Your band for the contest? I'm a solo act. Oh, that's too bad. You need a band to compete. Right, for the contest. Yeah, it's me and this guy. You need at least 3. I gotta run.
Hey, if you want to jam sometime, I've got a rehearsal space. You've got to let me dress too.
No thanks, I'm good.
Take this. My info's on the tag. Come by anytime. You're gonna be a star. You should dress like one.
So, just using that as an extraction point, a couple of different extraction points. So a lot of the storyline, ironically, mimicked a lot of my life in terms of like some of the challenges that I went through starting a band, trying to find other people that wanted to be in a band, trying to find other girls that play guitar, and so the opportunity turned into me being able to produce the music, play the lead role, and also be a part of changing the script and writing the script to something that was more specific to the things that I went through in life. The only difference is that my mom didn't die, which in the beginning scene, that's the character, her mom passed away, and so she decided to move to Brooklyn to pursue a career in music, which is what her mom always wanted for her, but she ended up staying, for the longest to take care of her mom, and then when her mom passed away, she moved. And so the film is kind of just talking about the journey of going from being broken and brokenhearted because someone you loved is no longer with you, and turning that into changing your perspective and turning it into something that's beautiful. And by the end of the film, Lucy, my character, ends up rocking out, having a band, and wins the contest, and goes on and has a great life. But a lot of the in between are moments of heartbreak, moments of hardship, being let down. The guy Malcolm who just offered rehearsal space. There's a scene where I eventually get to his studio and he's like, well, I can't do it anymore because my bandmate basically is jealous that I'm trying to help you. And just kind of going back to those moments in my life where I said, the amount of times I went on tour somewhere and we get there and the drum set is not what you all said it was going to be. The show is in 30 minutes. What are we going to do? Or just times where last year actually, or no, that was 2 years ago, hiring musicians to come meet me in the city to play, and they just go ghost. There was one time where we had a drummer that literally she just disappeared, didn't say nothing, and hit me up after the show. Oh, hey, what's up? My bad. What? So those little things I look for. Going back to principles, the beginning things that I led with: self-awareness, consistency, and discipline. To me, a true musician, yes, it's your skill, yes, it's your talent, but true musicianship to me is being able to take those principles. You have to be able to lead and follow on stage. There are times where the band is following me, but there are some times where I have to follow the drummer to lead us back to where we're going, or lead us back, because I'm trying to do 15 different things on stage, talking, remembering this, leading you, entertaining the crowd. There's a lot of things happening. So I think true musicianship is being able to take those disciplines, and those principles like discipline, self-awareness, and consistency, and being able to showcase that in a different light. Another cool thing about a solo act was the guy, Larry, that bumped into me in the beginning. He actually was the director of photography for Juice, which I didn't learn until we were on set, or actually at the end. And someone said, I don't know if you know this, but Larry was the DP for Juice. And I'm like, you mean Juice, like the iconic film Juice? They're like, yeah. So just being in a room with all of those people was so cool, because they were just regular people that just loved what they were doing. And that was one of the only moments in my career, not the first, but one of the few, I should say, moments in my career where I was surrounded by people that were genuinely there because of their passion, not because of their title, not because of their credits, not because of whatever that they could flex. Because all the people in that room had way more credits than any of us could ever dream of combined. But they were there because they wanted to be, and because they were passionate, and because they loved, the art of what they were doing. Thank y'all for coming. So, nope.
Have band practice.
We have that later today too. Sit down. Thank you, Bubsy. The last thing I want to mention about solo act is being able to transfer the skills of leading and teaching. There are a lot of the like the musician that you all saw with the short bob. She is not a musician in real life at all. The guy Malcolm never touched a bass in his life, but his character was playing bass. Her character was playing guitar. So in addition to all those other things, I got to be a teacher on set and teach people, all right, so if you're going to pretend to play the guitar, let's make a few adjustments. When you stand, you got to stand like this, switch it up like this, playing with this, put your wrist like this, guitar pick like, just stuff like that, or wrapping your cables, just little things like that I knew that the consumers, when they watch the film, they're going to see those little things, especially if you're a musician. The first thing we look at is the cable really plugged up? Like, is the microphone on? Stuff like that. So just being able to work with them in all of those different facets was just a huge experience. But it started with me being 13 in my parents' garage, playing the guitar, writing out what I want my dreams to be one day. And I always tell my students, it might seem silly, it might seem weird, it might seem goofy to be writing, you know, to yourself on a piece of paper, but I believe that words have power, and I believe when you're able to put those things out there, whether it's written or verbal or just talking to someone, you know, you're really able to, again, cultivate a different perspective, or you're able to show up in the world different. So these are a couple more highlights I just wanted to show quickly. These two are from The Harder They Fall. We got to go to New Mexico. I think that was in I don't remember when that was. I think, 2021. That was in 2021. And this was a cool experience. And the way that this came about was, I'm just going to play some of the B-roll as I'm just talking through it. But the way that a lot of this came about was through online social media marketing and branding. One day I get a DM from the lady who does from the casting director. And she said, hey, you know, I came across your Instagram because somebody in New York at a school recommended you. They saw you on Instagram. We're looking for Black female musicians for a movie called The Harder They Fall. And they really wanted to prioritize all Black women. So the first time I went out there, I think I was out there for like maybe 2 weeks. And I was literally sitting in my hotel room for the longest, waiting for them to actually like, you know, hit play and for us to go on set. And I remember one day we went to set and the director was like, we got to send everybody back home and start over because I wanted Black female musicians. You all gave me one Black girl that plays guitar and everybody else is not, which is cool. I love diversity, but this movie, we really want to highlight Black women that play instruments. So they sent us back home and I said, well, I might be able to help you because I have a whole collective of musicians. And so they went through the website and I said, you know what, these two in particular are going to be able to embody the principles that we need for this movie to actually happen. Because we're not looking for someone who can come on set and actually play drums because we're not going to be playing. You just have to show that you know how to play or like mimic playing, which is a different skill than getting on stage and getting ready to play a full drum set. There are some musicians in the collective that their specialty and their wheelhouse is just call me when you need me for a live set. I'm not good with studio stuff. I don't want to be on a movie. I'm not good with that. There are some who are like, only call me for behind the scenes stuff. I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to be on camera, but I can help you with the production behind the scenes in the studio for your film. And I can also help, you know, with other areas. So Vanessa right here plays the keys and Jay plays the drums. And so that's how that came about. And so I always use that as another example to students of, you know, consistency and discipline paying off in the long run. Again, we live in a world where we all want quick satisfaction now because that's what we're surrounded by. You open up your phone, it's there. You order it, it's there like 20 minutes later. But I'm always talking to kids and even adults too about how sometimes I myself have been guilty of getting wrapped up and consumed in the instant gratification or the want for instant gratification. And I have to sometimes take myself back to these moments and say, this didn't happen, you know, in a year. This happened literally like 20-something years after I picked up a guitar. But if I hadn't remained consistent, if I hadn't exercised discipline through dog training, I'm a cyclist. I also ran track. I played soccer. If I hadn't exercised discipline in those areas, what would that have looked like when I had to get on stage? And actually, when we were on set, the first piece of film that we had, the first sheet music that we had was for a certain song. And then at the last minute, the director literally came up to us and said, I know that you all have been studying this for the last 3 weeks, but I'm going to change it right now. here's the new sheet music. And I was like, okay, well, I've done that before. But again, that's being able to take that, what's the word I'm looking for? Being able to be aware of what needs to happen in the moment, but also being able to adapt. That's what I'm saying. And then these two were from NBC. I got to be on Ordinary Joe, did a couple of episodes on that. And then these are two video or clips from or pictures from we got to be in a Young Thug Dua Lipa music video. That was pretty cool. And then also I had a song that was placed in Wendell and Wild, which was pretty cool experience as well. So again, these are just moments of years and years of doing things that I felt had nothing to do with being a musician. I remember telling my mom, I really want to be a musician. I want to go to a music school and I want to study music. And my mom was like, my parents are not musically inclined, but they were like, we love that you love that, but can we try to get you into another area that you're also interested in so you have both things and not just one. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, which is why I ended up studying environmental science and then eventually environmental law and policy. And didn't think that those things would serve me any purpose, but studying environmental law and policy ended up helping quite a bit when it came to building a guitar, but also protecting my creation, protecting my music. This is another highlight of my career. I got an award from Mark Ruffalo for environmental stewardship, and this was when I was working in nonprofit. And then this is just solo act, and then these two clips are from, I got to play the Beloved Benefit concert opening for Usher and Maroon 5, which was pretty cool. I was gonna play this little clip really quick. This is a short clip.
Have you ever had a dream that you want that you could do anything?
So that was another cool moment because that little girl in the video was my niece, and I remember my niece telling me that she wanted to play guitar one day, and so I'm not gonna cry. Yes, I am. I get emotional every time. It was a full circle moment of being able to be representation in real time. For not just like a little girl, not just a little black girl that wanted to one day do something that she saw someone doing, but to be her aunt is even cooler. So that was just a really cool experience. This is the last clip I'll play from that. This was another example of just being adaptable. Initially, the plan was they kind of gave me free will and said, you know, our vision is that you're going to walk down this long runway with the Atlanta Falcon cheerleaders, and when you get to the end, you're going to get to this big circle, and you're going to get up on the riser, and you're going to play, and then we want you to come back to the side. So I planned to do that with one guitar, my ESP, and then when I got to the second spot, I was going to change to my PRS and then finish out the rest of the song. Of course, it wouldn't be a concert if they didn't change things at the last minute. Literally, I'm backstage, and we're about to start my section of the solo, and the producer was like, hey, we're going to change it. Can you, instead of coming down the stage, we want you to walk through the crowd while you're playing your solo and then come up these very steep steps, don't trip, and then get up on the riser and then finish out your solo there. I was like, okay, with all these celebrities in here, like, sure, no pressure. So that was a cool moment as well. So yeah, that was just a really cool moment, and just again another example of being able to take those moments and go full circle. I wanted to leave time for questions because I know I've been talking your face off, but are there any feelings or just thoughts, questions, whatever, from anybody?
I love the moment with your niece. It is like hitting super hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it really does, like, I don't know, we talk about this a lot, just sometimes just like seeing the person there doing the thing, you're like,
Yeah.
I can do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's real, it can happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you all, I want to pose the question to you all, have you all ever had those moments in life where you're seeing someone doing something that you want to do one day, and it changes the perspective in that moment of how you move forward? Have y'all ever experienced that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've had the opportunity to like be around some of my heroes, and it really is, you know, about the journey and about the things we learn along the way, and that hard work and you know, believing in yourself,
Yeah.
and being able to pass that on is powerful.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, really inspiring, and like, I think it's amazing how good of an actress you are. Too.
Thank you. I was so nervous.
Like, wow.
I was winging that whole thing. I've
Like,
never played a lead role before. Like, my other roles were background.
Yeah, wow.
But like, yeah. Thank
okay,
you.
that's amazing. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's really cool that you were in the heart of the fall. I remember seeing that when it got released. It was a really cool movie.
Yeah, really good movie. Yeah, we had a lot of fun on that. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I just want to mention too, though,
Yeah.
it is, you know, an amazing gift and service to be able to share music,
Yeah.
and you know, that's like not said enough.
Yeah.
You know, how it spreads, you know, a lot of joy and things like that. To be able to, you know, do a seminar on that is important.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
for doing that, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Vanessa, I think you bring up such a good point. It's like, I think the future is community.
Yeah.
Just selfishly, maybe
Yeah,
I feel like that's like, as we go
definitely.
through this new modern age of like,
Yeah.
what is it? It's like the more humans we can get together, find our community, live together out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and
For sure.
yeah, when I was like 18 or something like that, I took a class. It was music appreciation, and it was the one class that totally opened my mind up about like what you mentioned in the beginning of your talk about being open-minded and appreciating you know, music, and then like new music and old music,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like all this stuff. And I carried that with me, and it's always been great because I was always fascinated with just these sounds and these new things, because I didn't, you know, I wasn't, you know, in like specific music classes. Well, I mean, I took classes when I was a kid. I was always fascinated with music, and I loved, you know, it's something that I was always attracted to, but I never was able to stay with it because of military brat. You know, our backgrounds also make a big deal with our path.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how our paths are, you know, how that happens. So yeah, but community is a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of community, I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to share some of your, not to put you on the spot.
Sure. No, I'm not sure about this Outlook thing, just says
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
There you go. All right, well, we'll be good. Hello, everybody. My name is Victoria. I would say one of the newest members of the Tulips. Yeah. And like she mentioned before, we met through a show called Peach Jam, in which I am the front of house engineer / A1 / post-production audio engineer for. But my main role is that I am the in-house audio engineer for Georgia Public Broadcasting, which is our local NPR and PBS station. So yeah, so how I got there, essentially, so quite opposite of Gabby. I've been doing music basically my whole life. And my dad really had one challenge for me growing up, is if you pursue this for real, learn everything that you can about music. And I took that as a challenge. I took that as a bet because he wanted me to succeed in it. My dad's kind of not a nice person either. Not to dump or anything, but I took that as a challenge, and I took that as something that I can prove him wrong in. So not only did I want to learn everything that I could about music, I wanted to learn how I could succeed in it and how I could make friends and, you know, build things and such, being in music. If that makes any sense. So fast forward to 2013 is when I graduated high school, was going off to college. I was undeclared for about a year and a half, and I wanted to be a theater major. I'd been doing theater, you know, in high school, and I really liked the vibes. So I did not pass that audition. And so everyone was like, hey, I think you should be a music major. Before I even got to school, they were like, go do music, it's your thing. And I didn't listen, I went to theater, they didn't accept me. And so the first time I auditioned for the music track, they actually put me in some kind of way. Passed their sight reading tests, all that. It took me so I went in 2013 and I graduated in 2020. 7 years to get one bachelor's degree. And I say that to say, don't be afraid to fail. I did not have a music theory background. I, of course, sight read. I did like Georgia reading chorus and all that growing up, but I wasn't versed in musical theory, which is a huge part of your studies. And I would fail all the time. There were things that I didn't know that many other people knew. I didn't have a single piano lesson before going in. but I learned, and I think that we also place emphasis on, if you've learned something from young, then you have a better chance at success, and that's not necessarily true. To be a music major and to be able to pass, you just need to be able to be proficient in piano and music theory. So eventually I got it. I got a hold to some people that, could help me. I also minored in jazz. So I sang with the jazz bands, sang with the big band, the combos, got to know those people, found tutors in there. I started understanding things better, understanding the roles of learning each other and how to play off of each other, which goes back to community. And then another thing I wanted to do, since I needed credits to graduate, I went into audio technology, and that's how I built the skills that I have today. And that's how I ended up becoming an audio engineer. I produce, I mix for local venues from time to time, but I also work in television and movies, and whatever I learned from school, I could put it in any facet of the industry. My favorite thing to say, not to flex, just stop me when you need me to, is that there isn't a mixing board that I don't know how to use, because a lot of the general functionality is about the same. If you know one mixing board, you know them all. If you know one DAW, you basically know them all. So I think that's important for me, obviously, to make money, but for everyone to know, because if you want to cut a demo, you're going to have to get on Fruity Loops, Pro Tools, Reaper, Audacity, whatever you have. You just got to, be able to cut on something that can record. If you want to, I keep thinking about cutting a demo. What else? If you want to do a podcast, if you want to do an interview, a lot of times they want a video element to it. You got to learn Pro Tools or any of the audition stuff, any of the Premiere Pro type situations, Adobe Suite, So all of these things are cross-platform and there's a word, cross-disciplinary, and they help you in several different ways, But also going back to the community element, right? I will say that a lot of times being hired in this industry isn't just about what you know, it's about who you know. And it doesn't have to be who you know and who you just rub elbows with. You be that dude at the jam session that, popped his string and just kept going. Just talk to somebody, go to shows, go outside. I host an open mic, which is funny, I got that opportunity from Gabby. And I do it for free, but I love it because it gives me access to a lot of instrumentalists, a lot of people in the Atlanta area that are just willing to play, has a show somewhere that they want me to go see, has somewhere that they want to be live. I saw someone playing on the Beltline, just playing and collecting yeah. I love it.
Chavis Flag, he's a phenomenal guitarist.
Yes.
Phenomenal guitarist.
Mm-hmm. And, you're talking about the guy that skateboards.
Yeah.
I haven't
Chavis?
formally. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Borax. This is this other dude who came to the jam session or whatever, and he was just playing on the Beltline one day, and he recognized me, and I recognized him, and we just talked. He has a show. I'm going to the shows. It's all about who you talk to, because you never know when they might need an engineer. You never know when they might need a singer, which, by the way, I'm a vocalist too. Yeah. Boo later. Sorry. But you just never know who you're going to talk to that might be leading to your next opportunity, or just a friend. I know people who grow food, anybody who can help you in this journey, because there will be days where you're eating a can of sardines with rice and a single grain of spinach. You know what I mean?
So specific.
She knows. Good skincare, I could tell.
I got it right. Organic.
Good. But yeah, just get to know people, go outside, and
eventually these building blocks will kind of lead you into the direction that you want to be in, like potentially winning an Emmy. Or, I don't know, like anything you want. A Grammy, it's yours as long as you continue on the path. And there are some days where you're just not arting, and that's fine. There's some days where you're socially on, creatively on, socially off, creatively on, and vice versa. Creatively off, socially on, creatively off, and socially off. But as long as you are breathing and living in this thing, you are still who you are. You're still an artist. Any questions? It's really, I'm a bit of a goober, so feel free to ask.
Yeah. I think it's so important, like you said, like how just we fail sometimes and we keep going and we never know where it's going to take us to. And like your story of like, this is where audio engineering led me to this whole other career that maybe in the beginning you didn't envision.
Not at all. Like, you know, just talking to different people. Like one of the first things that I was put on was this reality TV show called Put a Ring on It. And for like a year or so, they put me on football. I was holding this big ass parade mic, gaining muscle mass. And then like maybe a month or so after that, I was on Rap City. And that was like the revival tour. So Big Tigger was on it, Fat Joe, all those people were on it. And it was just like one of those moments where it felt like full circle, but it's just touching the hem of what you feel like you're at. So with like the show of Peach Jam, which I probably should have talked about more.
What? No.
No? Yeah.
Whatever you don't,
I get to meet with these musicians as well. And again, that's like touching the hem of it, but if you open your mouth, I think that's the most important part. Just talking about what you do and then deciding to go do it as well. It's like the part that I've been learning. Just saying yes.
Taking action. And
Yeah.
I think, and you know, because I've learned over the years, because I've got like kid that has grown, but I tell them, you know, you got a goal, you take like little steps, and that's how you can achieve great things, or you look back, but it takes time, and you know, slow learner is a slow forgetter too, so it's
That is
okay.
true. That is true.
It's okay to take your time and achieve piecemeal. So.
Yeah, because there are little victories within it. Like, you know, even going back to, like I said, Rap City, as opposed to like Peach Jam, you know, those little tiny experiences help me be able to get better and, you know, hone the craft of like miking a whole set. Yeah, so it's good. It's good to have. So, we'll go check on God. Thank y'all for listening.
It's so cool to hear that it takes time. Like, you know, I think we live in this era where, like, Gabby was saying too, like, we're like, oh, instant gratification, we gotta be this, we gotta be that.
Yeah.
To know that, like, sometimes your path just takes time.
Yeah. Sometimes your path does take time. The last two things that I wanted to briefly talk about is kind of going back to the beginning of how Tulips even became a collective to begin with. And the story is actually kind of funny because a lot of it started with me starting the band, and I had the same 5 musicians, or actually it was 4 of us. It was the same 4 people all the time. And for the first like year, maybe year and change, it was cool because we were doing, you know, rehearsals, we were playing all these, you know, shows and gaining traction. It was really cool. But then I get a phone call one day, I'm leaving work, and I get a phone call from a random number. I did not answer it. And so my Google Voice transcribed it, and it was the Indigo Girls tour manager. And I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be real at all. And it was. So I called back. They asked us to tour with them as an opener, and I was so excited because they gave us the entire tour, like every date. I was so upset at the time because I only took 5 of those dates because the other girls in my band, all of a sudden their schedules changed and they couldn't do the other dates. And so I had to let go of those dates. And I remember looking back on that moment and saying, I am never again going to lose an opportunity because of someone else's legitimate and not legitimate schedule changes. That's when I turned the Tulips into a collective. So I could say, it doesn't matter when the opportunity comes, I know that I'm going to be able to find somebody in this collective of 35 musicians. I know we'll be able to find someone and put the band together in a way that makes sense. So that's how the Tulips became a collective, from a somewhat missed opportunity, but we also took the opportunity. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this is a recap of our first tour with the Indigo Girls, and I actually catapulted this into our first solo tour, Queens of the New Age tour. But it started with the Indigo Girls saying, "Hey, do you want to be an opener for us?" And so that's how this got started. That's my mom. She was being such a mom backstage. That's my dad and my sister. Oh, it was so embarrassing, but it was fun. My dad was like at the front of the stage, like with the kids. And I was like, move! So that was a really cool experience. And I'll say one of the lessons that I extracted from that is definitely adaptability, because the musicians that were in that video were the musicians that, I had at the very beginning. But like that drummer that was in the video, Mo plays extremely fast, like extremely fast. But then the very next show, Kiana, another drummer, she was the one who was doing the drums on The Promised Land. That first acoustic song that I played, that's Kiana. Two very different drumming styles, the same song, but you're going to get two different feelings because their perspective of how they listen to the music and play it shows up a little different on stage. So that's another way that Tulips kind of showcases diversity in the littlest sense of the word. The last thing I guess I wanted to just briefly say is just when you were talking about not being afraid to fail. There are a lot of boards of directors that I've had the opportunity to be on, which definitely opened my eyes to another side of the industry, a lot of the institutional knowledge that you wouldn't otherwise know if you weren't in that room. I served on the board of directors for the Grammys, the Recording Academy, and that was really very cool. A lot of the conversations were interesting, especially as AI started to come on the scene, and so a lot of our conversations about how does AI play a role when it comes to nominating and winning Grammys. What would it look like if AI artists are winning Grammys over humans? Like what message does that send? So being a part of those conversations was interesting. And I served on the board of Vermont Law School, my alma mater. And that was a unique experience also because being able to work with students to get them on the path that they actually want to be on and need to be on, rather than the one the school is telling you to get on because they need a certain amount of money based on the degree that you're going to go and buy. So that was a cool experience because a lot of when you go into a law school, you graduate with your JD, you have a certain amount of time to go and take the bar, and if you don't take the bar in that time period, the school gets a ding on their accreditation because you're getting students into these JD tracks, and the whole objective is that they graduate with the JD, go take the bar, and then they become licensed attorneys in whatever office in whatever state, Secretary of State. But a lot of students weren't doing that. They were graduating with the knowledge, but they didn't want to take the bar because they don't have a desire to be litigating in a court of law. They don't want to do that. They want to work in the niche spaces. I remember one student was like, I just want to work in nonprofit because I really enjoy community and I just want to be able to explain, the legal side of how we can protect nonprofits and business, but I don't want to take the bar to go and work in a nonprofit, so I'm not taking the bar. So stuff like that were large conversations. But again, I'm one of those people that's like, well, let's work with students to actually get them on the path that they need to be. If they don't need to be on the JD track, then put them on a Master of Law track. They can still be a lawyer. They just won't be able to be a licensed attorney in that state, meaning you can't go and represent people in a court of law. But that's not what they want to do anyway, and that's perfectly okay. So that kind of work too has been part of my background as well. So all of that to just say, going back to the beginning, just cultivating perspective, and again, the people that you're around, the things that you see, the things that we do help to cultivate the person that we are. And a lot of my journey in the music industry had nothing to do with music. It was those moments cycling and running track and playing soccer and being on boards and teaching at the zoo that cultivated, you know, the perspective that I have today. And I'm just thankful that, you know, I've been given the gift of music to get back out into the world. So with that, thank you all for letting me talk your face off for an hour and a half. And thank you, Victoria, for sharing your input.
Yeah.
Are there any thoughts? Yeah.
No, please, the floor is open. Thank you both so very much. We've got to get you back over here to talk to the larger group too. I'm just like, oh man, I wish all the guitar players were here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, please, yeah, I guess we'll open the floor to questions. Yeah, anything you all have at all.
Who were some of your biggest idols growing up as far as like playing guitar and being a musician as well?
Steve Vai was always one of my favorites.
One of my favorites.
I love me some Steve Vai. I love the way that man plays guitar because it sometimes makes absolutely no sense, but it sounds like it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But just watching him play guitar is such a fascinating experience to me. Die to Live is literally my favorite song in the face of the year. I love that song so much. But also Kurt Cobain is one of my favorites from a songwriting perspective and guitar, but definitely songwriting. Him and Lane Staley. Lane Staley, guitar and music. Songwriting. I guess both of them. But Kurt Cobain in particular, because I love the way that he was able to take all of the horrible, horrible things that he was going through in life from such a young age and turn it into a song that, again, you turn on Teen Spirit. Everyone, even if you've never even heard of Nirvana, you've heard of Teen Spirit somewhere in H&M, somewhere you've heard Teen Spirit. So I love that. Also Alice in Chains, specifically because of Lane Staley. So yeah, those are definitely some of my favorite. Also Orianthi. I love Orianthi. She plays guitar phenomenal. I love Jimi Hendrix as well. There's a lot, but those are like the ones that always stuck with me as like a foundation.
Did you ever take theory classes or anything like that? Or
I actually did, yes.
In your law school and stuff, like kind of do like music on the side, because that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Did you?
I did. So I studied classical guitar theory for about 3 or 4 years after I had been playing for about, I think I had been playing guitar for like maybe 8 or 9 years, and then I started studying classical, which was great because it kind of brought everything full circle because I already knew how to read sheet music. I already had an understanding of basic music theory because of playing the oboe and the clarinet. So being able to transfer that into guitar and then studying classical guitar and music theory helped to kind of just, like when I got into studying classical guitar and like playing it different, the texture, that's when I got into different tones and textures of guitar. And I, like from a string perspective, because I was like, I had no idea strings could be nylon. So yeah. Yeah, for sure.
How do you balance with your busy life? How do you balance practicing and like maybe the other facets that you care about? Like how do you divert your attention? What does it look like?
I streamline things. So I look at everything as one large thing to do over a very long extended period of time rather than 15 small tasks. Because when I look at all those little tiny tasks, it becomes burdensome and then I eventually don't do anything because I am subconsciously overwhelmed with all of the little tidbits that each of those tasks requires. So instead of looking at 10 different tasks as 10 different individual things to do, I'll say, all right, well, I know when I get on the computer today, I'm going to have to do the overview sheet. I have to finish planning the logistics for this trip. And I also have to finish, whatever lesson plans I'm going to do for my kindergarten and elementary school kids. And then I also got to finish, registering as copyright for a client. So I'll say, all right, I need to do those 3 things. When I get on the computer, those are the three things that I knock out. So it's kind of like one thing. The computer is the thing that brings them all together rather than it being, okay, let me do all the stuff for this show and then put it away. And then let me go back and do the stuff for the kindergartners and then put it away. And then let me go back and do, instead of doing it like that, I just say, all right, these 3 areas are going to require me to be on the computer for these tasks. So let me do all of those things and knock it out in one foul swoop. And then I sometimes I also have a Post-it note wall at home because I'm a visual person as well. So I'll have 4 sections, and I'll put what I need to do, the task itself, and then once it gets done, then I move it to like I'm almost done with it. Okay, I finally finished it, and then my final column is called "It's done, bitch." And then after I fill up that entire column, then I buy myself something nice. So it's kind of like, and sometimes it ends up being a candle. It ends up being something for him, but something for him is still something for me because he leaves me alone. So when I need to do things. So yeah. And then also cycling, like exercising, mental health. Because I do not, and we were literally talking about, like, I have to figure out a way to do Pilates. So I left my yoga mat at home, but like I can't not do yoga before tomorrow. I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah, I always been a runner.
Yeah,
Yes,
I love running.
and
Yeah.
it has helped so much. Just do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, I was
Oh,
no.
Just follow up with that. So if you're like, all right, it's practice time. I'm sitting with my guitar. How do you streamline that thing? And it's not, well, I gotta practice these 15 songs or like enclosures in B flat today or whatever it is.
So it's funny you say that because I didn't start practicing for this show in a tangible sense until last week, but I had started practicing for it like 4 months ago because I knew that at first, in order for me to get to the point of practicing, I first have to build out what we're even doing. And that takes time because I build each of our shows based on the audience or the theme of that thing we're doing. So I factor in the city that we're going to, the weather is important, are we going to be inside, outside, what do I want the show to record? So once I build all those things out, I have found that it's easier for me to practice the vocals and the guitar because I'm not worried about the physical component of like when we're playing this song, what are the people going to see on stage as they're listening to what it is that we're playing? So I break things out like that, but then also because of the structure of the band, I have to create more in-depth items that help the musicians rehearse leading up to the show date. So that looks like I have a huge database, a large drive, it's called the Motherload. And inside of the Motherload, I have a master music drive. And so I go in and make recordings that are specific to that show, in addition to, here's the studio version of that song. But we play the song different because every musician is different every time we play a show. So you might want to reference this, this show versus this, etc. So I do it like that, and then I make one long recording of what the show is going to be, and then everybody's able to listen to the full studio version of that show recording, that 1 hour recording, and then from there I'll extract it and say I'm going to just play the guitar. So then I have a full recording of just guitar of how I'm going to play specifically for this show. Then I'll go back and add another recording with me singing the vocals, because this time we're going to have background vocals, whereas most of my other shows we don't. So I build out, so I end up practicing through the process, and then when I get to the end, being last week, I'm like, all right, now I have all of the reference points, I have all of the things, all of the laborious things that were needed for this show to be a show, I've already done. And I've already been practicing the singing when I'm driving to work, to the recordings that I made. At nighttime, I'll practice through and say, all right, I know this solo, I need to touch this up a little bit, or I'll go back and power. Like, there's one song that we're going to be playing tomorrow that I've never played live. So stuff like that. So yeah, it's like a long-winded subconscious way of me practicing non-tangible, and then when I get to the tangible piece, it's easier because I've already done all the other stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm assuming there's songs you've already mostly played, so it's not like you're learning brand new things or practicing brand new techniques at this point.
For the most part, but even with that, it kind of depends because like the drummer that's playing with us tomorrow, I've actually never played with her before. I know how she plays, but the way that I play has to be in sync with the way that she plays. So me practicing the way that I played the song for a show last year is not really relevant to what we're doing tomorrow. So sometimes that looks like, hey, can you send us a recording of you playing drums to this particular song? Because I know I can listen to your ability to play. I know that you're going to be fine. But this one, because this is one we haven't played live before, send me a video of you, a recording of you playing that. So we're able to all practice to the way that each other plays. And then when we get to rehearsals, then we're able to bring it all together. And it's not like a brand new thing. Like we're not spending time in rehearsal learning how you play because I already know from recordings, So, yeah.
I was just gonna ask, so you mentioned that you, in the beginning, that you worked with kids, right? And so you're also an educator, or is it more of, oh, okay, cool,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I teach K through 12, but I float, so it just depends. Right now I'm with my elementary school kids this school year, Next school year, I'll be going back to my middle school kids. And so within that, when the teachers are out, then I go in and will teach in their stead. But through that, because I'm not beholden to the curriculum the way that their homeroom teachers are, especially in elementary, because they don't trade classes the way you do in middle school and high school. So I'm able to work with that group of students and say, all right, we're going to talk about, like yesterday, or not yesterday, but like 2 days ago, the kids were learning about how the earth rotates on its axis in the sun. So I'm able to take that lesson and break it out into, well, what are some of the principles of life that you can take into the future, like into the way that you think, into the way that you see things. So I enjoy working with elementary school kids because I'm able to get with them at the forefront of their brains developing and like them figuring, because they don't even know what they like. Some of them know what they do like, but I'm able to work with them and say, as we're looking at how the earth is rotating, what is your perspective? What is it that you're seeing? What is it that you're seeing? How can you all take that and one, take your test and pass it, but two, figure out what you like and you can build onto that later in life.
No, I love that.
So yeah, I'm able to kind of bring them a little bit of a different avenue rather than the Georgia State curriculum.
Yeah, because I'm in music education too. Are you in Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's great. Good.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
And I'm able to do stuff like this with the schools, because I've developed relationships with a lot of the schools over the years. So I'm able to do like short versions of this with the kids. Like we did, we played the Black History Month assembly at my school, and the kids were just like, Miss Logan, because like they've seen me play on videos, and I brought my guitar to school, but they haven't been able to see me play until we did that. And so it's a whole, then it becomes a whole new experience. First, it was just us seeing someone that looks like us. Then that someone is someone that we actually know because that's our teacher. And then it's, wow, they're actually playing in person? Whoa! So, yeah, it's a cool roundabout, way of giving back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you feel like you mentally have to switch between the different aspects of your life? You said they're all together. Like, I think it's because some of us teach and some of us then perform and then the students too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I see it because the center of it is passion. To me, it's all the same thing. I'm just rotating which direction of passion I'm exuding. So it doesn't feel like I'm, teaching and then I'm putting that away and now I'm being a musician. To me, I'm still being a musician as I'm teaching. It just doesn't look like me sitting here playing a guitar. It could be me talking about the instrument or talking about how I learned how the instrument even works. How do you take that principle and understand what it is that you're learning? How do you take that principle and manage relationships? Because you're going to middle school. Some of y'all gonna get beat up. How do you deal with that? I mean, it's facts. Like, sorry, I love my fifth grade, but like they are, like some of they're like we all been in elementary school. When you think you're like just too cool for school, you have too much dip on your chip. Just.
Well, I sub at that. I sub at the. I like elementary school. I actually like elementary, middle, and high school. They're all different.
Yeah.
And like.
Yeah. You're getting them at different stages of life.
But it's Yeah. There's just so much you can do with music. And I think that's really inspiring because it seems like for a long time, especially years ago, that it was like, ooh, there's not as much to do, but it's like, there's a lot to do. And you can absolutely, there's so much, I mean, that you never know what's going to pop in your life, because like I had no idea I was going to do the choir director gig or whatever, and like, that whole thing, and it was perfect for while I was in school and stuff like that. So it's will open doors. So,
for sure. For sure. Another way that I streamline things, I thought about this as you were saying that, like when I go cycling, I'm listening to music, so sometimes I'll listen to the set, as I'm cycling, so I'm able to, one, memorize everything, but also I'm able to practice vocal stability while I'm cycling, because I'll be singing while I'm cycling. Cycling on your singing is difficult, but the payoff is great, because you end up learning a lot of breath control, because you don't have a choice but to control your breath when you're cycling up a hill against oncoming traffic and someone's not paying attention because they're texting and driving. So
also be aware of the train tracks.
Those tracks.
Because I take the train and I have a new awareness of trains. So. Just saying.
Awareness. But then that's another thing too, because when I started cycling, then I became more aware of other people more than I became aware of myself. And that comes in handy when you're on stage, because I have to read the crowd and figure out, all right, I need to do a little something different right now. But honestly, that literally came from cycling. It had nothing to do with me being on stage, because to me, it was just like a repetitive thing. Get on stage in front of people, do the thing, and then you get off. But like while you're on stage, how are you engaging the crowd? And that came from being aware of how people are driving so that I can work around them because you're not paying attention. And then when they see me working around them, then they pay attention. And now we have that moment of, oh, you're cycling. Let me slow down.
Yeah.
Or like on stage, oh, I like the message of what you're saying. Let me slow down and listen a little bit different. Now you're moving with intention rather than just sitting in the room.
So true.
I could add to that
Yeah.
as well. For people who are neurospicy, potentially like I am, potentially, I also think it's important to have something else going on to help ingrain with like memory.
Yeah.
So like stair climber, running, you know, walking, doing yoga, playing the set over and over again in the background helps ingrain it in the subconscious, and it helps you remember, oh, what was I doing in that moment? What was my body going through in that moment? And then I can translate that to the stage. It could be either stress or it could be like,
Right.
and because the stair climber is crazy, but somehow we do it to ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
It
Right.
works.
But it
Yeah.
does. It
Yeah.
works. It helps you with your memory. It helps you, you know, keep going and
Yeah.
remember where you're picking up. Because even if you like stop on the stair climber and the set is probably still going,
Yeah.
you remember, oh, that's where I stopped in that part of the stair climber,
Yep.
and that's how I can pick back up, and this is where I breathe
Yep.
and
Yeah.
the whole night. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like a muscle memory
Yeah,
type of thing.
exactly.
It does.
Which
Oh,
is the same as for guitar. Like I
I
sometimes
do
I
the
don't
same
remember
thing.
consciously the
Yeah.
solo, but muscle memory, I remember what it is just from my fingers doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thoughts, feelings?
I love the idea of like you all. It's cool to hear you all do cycling and that other stuff too. That like when I'm in those spaces, like my brain clears out. Like if I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time where like I'm on the road or I'm not doing it, I can feel like I'm like, oh, I'm more angry.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I don't feel like
Yeah.
I'm like I can connect.
So
and then I'm
true.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I'll go on a run or go on ride my bike and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel so much better. Or
Yeah.
walk even.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Oh.
even that kind of stuff changes how you play. Because if you're like pissed off because you haven't exercised and you get on stage, everyone's like, "What's wrong with her? We just paid to come to this concert and she's bad." Like,
It's so true.
yeah,
The
yeah,
power of just a little 5-minute walk.
Even
Yeah.
that, yeah, just like
Yeah.
whatever works for. But it's true, like the action that you take, you know, and stuff like that is really important.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah. Yep. Well, I was gonna play this video in closing. This is our rendition to "Smells Like Teen Spirit." This is a
Oh,
fan
cool.
fave. We'll be playing this tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
He's knocked out. With the lights out, it's We're not leaving. All right. I'm gonna let this play on the way out, but this is an original of the Deadpool. I'll just let it play if y'all are leaving. I get it. I'm gonna start packing this. Thank y'all for coming. fun fact, a lot of this footage is random footage that I filmed on my phone in Arizona when I was waiting for us to go on the movie set for The Harder They Fall. So they were like, for like 2 weeks I was sitting, I was like, I got something to do. Hold on,
Especially when you're out
Bubsy.
there, it's just like everything's so scenic. You're just like,
It's so scenic. Like, I really want to buy property out there and just like build a studio and like an animal farm and just like live there. I love it so much. What's up, Bubsy? In here. Thank y'all so much. Hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow at the Flatiron. Can you please?
I think he wants to play drums.
Kyla wants to go to sleep.
we will have to have y'all back for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kyla, like,
Everybody else would dig it.
Definitely, yeah.
is that good to leave it like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I guess I could just set it down. Oh, who put this bowl?
It won't fit if you have magic powers and that'll be. Yeah. So I'm gonna start. Yeah. You know what's fascinating? I need the key.